Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Philip K. Dick's short story called Strange Eden, which was published in 1954. Unlike a lot of his other sort of so-called utopias in the stories, this one's actually a real utopia, which is exactly what he intended. It's not like the sort of perverted technocracies that Philip K. Dick was warning people about. And basically, it starts off with Brent and Captain Johnson, and during their space travels, they land on this planet that is very much like the Garden of Eden, only that it's even more fascinating. It's not just this sort of blissfully ignorant kind of a small-minded place, but it's a place that looks like a kind of a hybrid of many things that he's seen on Earth. So not only are there lush, beautiful forests, but there's gigantic animals like bears, lions, tigers, but they're all incredibly they're incredibly large, and he's not really sure what's going on. What is the basis of all this? Is this an offshoot of the reality that he currently lives in on his own planet? And eventually he stumbles upon a young woman who's immortal, who doesn't age, and she never reveals her name, but he discovers that she inhabits this amazing monument, this amazing place that has marble walls, and it's also inhabited by a giant, and both of them provide him this incredible feast. And he wonders really what these things are, because it obviously seems like a sacred place. There's something that's at least to me is very reminiscent of Greek and Christian sort of mythology, the sense of the sacred and also the sublime, and the sort of like the Garden of Eden existing outside of out of the sort of polluted kind of civilization that people live in. And he starts to develop feelings for this young woman. And at one point he asks her, well, is your people a divine race? Are you gods? And she says no, but they've developed a few more things that human beings have not yet. Of course, they have the ability to not age. They also have something that is very strange about the sort of biosphere, I guess, that they have. Like, they have an ability to affect human biology, and because they communicate with human beings. They developed an understanding of the human languages, and they understand human affairs pretty well. So it gets to the point where, because Brent has developed feelings for this stranger, he wants to sleep with her. But she says that she warns him that you won't be the same person after that, because of this mystical effect they have in human biology. He will, like many of those sort of mermaid stories, where after the kiss he suddenly becomes one of them. He will basically become a part of this race of beings, whatever that really means. He's not exactly clear about what that means yet, whether it's spiritually, whether it's physically he's going to change. He doesn't know yet. So then he discovers, or we discover, after that he's actually changed into an entirely different species altogether, because the young woman, the mysterious stranger, goes to Captain Johnson one day and says to him, Brent has decided to live with us instead. And Captain Johnson very easily agrees, which is something I did not expect, is a little strange. But then he notices that there's this giant animal is following her. And the animal makes this human-like gesture, already indicating to him that the Brent has become part of this species. And so that's the gist of the story. And I would say that, for me, just not only as an artist, but just as almost like the inner child in me, I think really has a lot of nostalgia when I read this because there's a director called Hayao Miyazaki, a Japanese anime director, and the story is very reminiscent of that sort of style, which is also very unusual for him, I think. But another thing that I think is really that I think is the most important about this whole story is the idea of there being solidarity. You know, there being, mutual love, understanding in the story without there being any kind of forced consensus, or without there being something having to be imposed. You know, and another thing that's interesting, that's also kind of an ironic element of all of this, is that you get the sense that in the technocracies, they would look at a world, they might even look at a world like this and think of it as too reminiscent of religion or ancient values or things that are sacred, and they might think, well, the problem with that is that it's forcing people to conform to something, and we don't like that. We're about the future. We're about trying to get out of the dark ages. We want people to we don't want people to be ignorant. But in reality, in the technocracies, they're essentially making everybody obey and do exactly what the state wants. Whereas in this case, in this kind of, this sort of fluffy, magical kind of world, everybody seems to have a very natural sort of solidarity and agreement among each other about things naturally function in a way that doesn't really require any kind of authoritarian structure, and that is one of the things that might I point to, and I don't know. I mean, even though I can't really read his mind, I would say that maybe that Philip K. Dick was suggesting, that he was saying that maybe this is the kind of world, whether it's a monarchic republic or whatever form that would take. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think the story stuck with me so much. There's scenes in it that are still very much etched into my own brain because of that. And it's almost frightening how much it really feels like you're there. And so I would highly recommend the story.